Let's look at the second game here on Saturday, Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills this is the Ravens and the Browns, I should say. Browns are sitting 2.5 to 3 point home favorites right now over the Ravens. 38.5 is your total as we sit right now. Stephen, we know a couple of things about this one. One, could be some weather concern in this thing. Again, we're doing this early Friday, lots of time between kickoff. We know weather's weird. 24 hours can mean a ton, but at least something to monitor. There's a few 4 or 5 different weather games this week that at the very least is going to be bitterly cold, and there might be wind, there might be rain, there might be slush, there might be different things like that, this being one of those games. No doubt that Deshaun Watson does not look great since he has taken over for the Cleveland Browns. We know that for sure, but the Ravens are going to have to go Tyler Huntley. There is not going to be any Lamar Jackson out there, and despite the fact that he does have a little bit of experience and has been a guy that has come in and played kind of admirably for this team, they were able to do absolutely nothing last week whenever he was in there on the field. Very, very lucky to get that win. The Steelers turned it over inside the 25-yard line 3 different times and lose by 2 points. So when you come away with 0 points on 3 different trips inside field goal range and lose by 2, that tells you get a pretty fortunate win in all of that. I laid the 2.5 here. I played a bunch of short favorites this week. I laid the 2.5 with the Browns. I thought there was at least, and I did this on Sunday, I thought there was at least a chance we were going to get Brown at quarterback for the Ravens. And if that was the case, it was going to fly past the 2.5 that was available out there. Instead, the 2.5 is still available if you want to play it on the Browns. End of the day, I'm just not completely sold on this Ravens squad. The offense certainly has sputtered all year long, even with Lamar Jackson. And now you put in Tyler Huntley, and I think it's just kind of a watered down version of what we've seen all year long.
Matt, the Browns were a big buy-on team in the market last week against the Bengals. Are you surprised that this hasn't gone out farther than it has at this point against a Ravens team that really hasn't impressed? I'm a little surprised here.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess we did come off the 2.5 at several of the books. It is 3 at several of the books. So, I mean, we know moving on to a key number and things like that. I mean, there is that's happened. I think people look and think that Huntley is kind of like, oh, it's Huntley. He's just kind of like Lamar light. And that's just not the case. There is no other Lamar, right? I mean, Lamar has an individual skill set that nobody can replicate in this league. And so, for me, I think there's maybe a little bit too much buy-in in Tyler Huntley.
Yeah, I teased the Ravens plus 8.5 here with a low total.
Which I think is fine.
40. Yeah. I think obviously a big window there for us to both win our bets with a low total of 40. I teased it with Pittsburgh this week. To your point about Watson the last 2 weeks, 25th in EPA per play, 23rd in CPOE. The Cleveland offense the past 2 weeks with a game against Houston in there has a worse EPA and success rate than the Baltimore offenses had with Huntley at quarterback, and they faced Denver and Pittsburgh, 2 strong defenses. And the Baltimore defense also has a better success rate in stopping the run metrics than Cleveland does. Obviously a very small sample size, but it's what we're working with here with these 2 quarterbacks that are playing in this game. So I don't fault anybody for taking the Browns under 2.5, especially with the market interest in this team. I just wonder if it's a bet on, okay, this is the week Deshaun Watson's going to look like he did for the vast majority of when he played for the Texans. And I think that you're kind of hoping this is that week for him.
Adam, when you take a look at this one, I mean, like I said, I was playing the Browns in hopes that it was going to be Brown. I mean, I guess there was a 50-50 shot that it was going to be Huntley. This thing is, I thought it's kind of a short week. It's a Saturday game instead of Sunday. Concussion protocol, them being super careful these days. Anyway, ended up not breaking my way. I think it's fine. I still think that the Browns at 2.5 is a bet that I don't feel terrible about being in the account by any stretch of the imagination. This Ravens team's just been fairly uninspiring on the offensive side of the ball. And while the Browns certainly have as well, I can only guess the more that Deshaun Watson plays, he's going to look more like the Deshaun Watson we know, but maybe that's not the case. Maybe he just won't look like that at all this year, and this will be a bad bet.
The Deshaun Watson we know. Interesting thought in 2022. I'll move on from that. The Baltimore Ravens at plus 8.5 was a teaser leg for me also. And it's a weather game. That's it. And this is the weather game of the weather games. Like, this is the one that's supposed to have the biblical wind and everything. And if it's going to become a game that is waged on the ground, then I don't think we're getting to either side being winning this game by more than 8.5 points. I don't really need to add a whole lot to it beyond that. You guys covered the Baltimore side pretty well. On the Cleveland side of things, the defense has been better than it had been. It's faced a few putrid offenses to help it do that along the way. So I don't think this is going to be a very inspiring game either way. I do think it plays low scoring, and I think it plays close.
Well, I think I like everybody's take really on this one. I mean, I don't think either team wins at margin. Browns maybe a slight edge if it is just, you have to run it over and over again. At least you have the two different backs that you can run it with and whatever. So I think that this is probably pretty straightforward and a very interesting one to watch as well. Because if Deshaun Watson makes absolutely no progress here in this game, you got to wonder if maybe this season is kind of lost here at all to try to back this Brown squad.